Hello and welcome to the City of Peoria Planning and Zoning Commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission is composed of volunteer citizens appointed by the City Council. The Commission is the designated hearing body for a range of land use applications, including general plan amendments, rezones, conditional use permits, and amendments to the zoning code. Upon recommendation by the Commission, general plan amendments, rezones, and zoning code amendments proceed forward to the Peoria City Council for final action. For conditional use permits, the Commission will make a final decision subject to appeal. All hearings are conducted in accordance with the rules for procedure requirements to allow an impartial and efficient hearing, and all Commission meetings are open to the public under the Arizona Open Meeting Law. Each case will be called in the order in which it appears on the agenda unless otherwise announced during the meeting. Once called, City staff will give a presentation of the case, followed by a presentation from the applicant if they so desire. After the applicant's presentation, members of the public who have submitted a speaker's request form will be called to speak by the Commission Chair. The applicant may be called to provide additional information, clarification, or a rebuttal. The Commission will discuss the case, may ask additional questions, and take action. Any member of the public wishing to speak must complete a speaker's request form and hand it to the planning assistant at the end of the dais. When speaking, please limit your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes and try not to repeat statements already made by others. We welcome your comments, and as fellow citizens of Peoria, we thank you in advance for your participation.
I would like to call the February 5th, 2026 meeting of the Peoria Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Welcome, everyone. Good evening. And before we begin, I want to thank my fellow commissioners for their vote of confidence in my new role. I look forward to a successful year. I also do want to take a moment to acknowledge Commissioner Josephine Waitman-Powell for her leadership. I have some big shoes to fill, but I'm thankful you're still serving with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's begin tonight with roll call. Commissioners, please indicate your presence after I call your name. Vice Chair Emilio Gaynor.
Here.
Commissioner Nate Cottrell.
Here.
Commissioner Julie Agia.
Here.
Commissioner Tony Fighter is absent. And Commissioner Josephine Waitman-Powell.
Here.
Thank you. This is the final call for speaker request forms. If you would like to address the commission tonight, please fill out a speaker request form. They are available at the entrance. The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine in nature and will be enacted in one motion. Consent agenda 1C, disposition of absence. 2, approve or excuse the absence of Commissioner Emilio Gaynor from the January 8th, 2026 meeting. And 2C, minutes from the January 8th, 2026 meeting. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve these consent agenda items as presented.
Yes, I second.
Thank you. Commissioner Nate Cottrell made a motion and Commissioner Waitman-Powell seconded. Please vote. Vote again, please. One more time, please, commissioners. We're having technical difficulties. Oh, mine is going. It says I voted. It's okay. Roll call for everyone? Oh, okay. All commissioners in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Would you like to look at my voter clicker? That's okay. It's okay. We improvise when we have to. We are now moving on to new business, which is item 3R, Deep Within Rehab Conditional Use Permit, CU 25-21. Staff, please present.
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners, Madam Chair. My name is Jacob Pereira. I'm a planner 2 with the City of Peoria. I'm excited to be presenting my first case to the commission tonight. The case that I'll be presenting is CU 25-21, Deep Within Rehab. The applicant, Cynthia Humes, is here tonight and available to answer any questions that you may have for her. Located at 11773 North 91st Avenue, situated just southeast of the intersection at 91st Avenue and Grand. The subject site is an existing approximately 2-acre substance abuse rehabilitation facility. The applicant is requesting to amend their previously approved conditional use permit to increase the allotted number of residents allowed to receive services on site from 20 to 28. To provide some context of what exists on site today, the facility has been in operation providing substance abuse counseling since 2004 and obtained a conditional use permit in 2018 to expand their programming from counseling and transition into a structured sober living facility, which aligns more with the substance abuse treatment center use. The subject site is zoned general commercial C4, where that use is conditionally permitted. The adjacent parcels are similarly zoned general commercial C4. The area surrounding the site to the north, east, and south consists of an RV sales and repair facility. Immediately beyond that facility to the north is Grand Avenue. Beyond it to the east is a mini storage facility, and beyond it to the south is the Casa del Sol RV Resort. The western boundary of the site abuts 91st Avenue, followed by a mix of uses in a commercial service center. These uses consist of auto service establishments, retail establishments, and workshop spaces. And then to the southwest there across 91st Avenue is a residential subdivision. The site does consist of multiple buildings that serve various purposes in support of the use, such as office spaces, storage, living quarters, and meeting spaces. Expansion of the site itself and the buildings on site are not proposed with this application. Currently, there are 20 residents allowed on site as it is tied to the narrative of the previously approved conditional use permit. There are 28 parking spaces to support staff and graduates of the program that act as peer mentors, as well as any guests or visitors. It is worth noting that residents receiving services do not have personal vehicles that are parked on site. Those 28 spaces are strictly for staff, guests, visitors, and peer mentors. The access existing off of 91st Avenue will continue to be utilized as well. This next slide provides an overview of the services and programming that occurs on site. Services are offered during standard business hours. However, the facility is available 24/7 to receive residents. Some of these services and programming consist of assessment, individualized program planning, health evaluations, individual and group substance abuse counseling, transportation assistance for residents, 12-step programming, vocational support, legal issue support, and drug and alcohol testing to verify sobriety. I do want to note that no detoxification or methadone treatment or intensive mental health care occurs on site. Individuals needing that type of treatment would instead be referred to local hospitals. So then what's changing? Under the previously approved CU 1803, the use was conditionally permitted, and the narrative tied to that permit limits the number of residents on site to 20. The request we're discussing tonight is simply to amend the previously approved CUP to increase that number to 28, in which the facility already has the capacity to accommodate. No other changes to the site or operational characteristics are proposed with the application. In regard to public safety, staff did consult with the Peoria Police Department and Fire Department. The Police Department did provide some calls for service data. There have been 14 calls for service over the last 2 years, only 2 of which resulted in a crime report. PD did identify that this is low for a facility of this type, and they do not have any concerns on impact or strain of public safety resources with the proposed change. Additionally, the Fire Department was included in the review and provided no comments. So to summarize staff's analysis of the request, the use of the site remains exactly as proposed under their previously approved conditional use permit, with the only requested change being that change or increase in number of residents allowed on site to 28. There are no changes to the physical site, building, parking, or access, and thus the change is not expected to have adverse impacts on the surrounding area. Now, as part of the conditional use permit application process, the city did send out notices of application and notices of hearing in accordance with the zoning ordinance requirements. A legal ad was also posted in the local newspaper, and the site was posted by the applicant per city requirements, providing project information and notice of the hearing tonight. As of today, staff has received no opposition or support of the application. For conditional use permits, the Commission does have the ability to impose additional conditions of approval. This request, as proposed, does meet the city's requirements for a conditional use permit, and in this case, staff does not feel that any additional measures are necessary. However, the city does maintain continuing jurisdiction, so should the applicant not continue to meet the requirements of the CUP, or should any issues arise in result of the request, the city may recommend the CUP be revoked, modified, or suspended, and it returned to the Commission for hearing. So all of that to say, staff's findings are that the request reflects a small operational modification, simply increasing that number of allotted residents to 28. The applicant has operated in compliance with their previously approved conditional use permit, CU 1803, and their current application does meet the city's conditional use permit criteria. Thus, the proposed change is not expected to have adverse impacts on the surrounding area. With that, staff recommends that the Commission approve CU 25-21, subject to the conditions of approval of Exhibit 1. Staff and the applicant are available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Herrera. Does the Commission have any questions for staff? Commissioner Cottrell.
Thank you, Chair. And I know we had discussed by email. I just wanted to put this on the record. You know, it was a little confusing where the difference from 20 to 28 was coming from, and if you could confirm why or where that original 20, if the capacity was actually 28 even then, if you could confirm that for me.
Absolutely. Madam Chair, Commissioner Cottrell, the number 20 comes from the previously approved conditional use permit. So when the city issues a conditional use permit, we tie the narrative of that application to the permit, and that's how we measure substantial conformance. And so because that number, or that limit of 20, it may have been a capacity at the time, the number 28 comes from Arizona Department of Health regulations, and those numbers come from bedroom and bathroom count. And so the facility currently has the capacity to operate at 28, but the State Department is requiring that they amend their conditional use permit with the city prior to operating at that capacity, since that CUP holds them to 20.
Thank you. No other questions.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? No? 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 Does anyone have questions for the applicant? Would the applicant like to present? No? Sounds great. Thank you. I now open the public hearing. And I have no speaker cards. I will close the public hearing. All right, if there are no other comments or questions, can I get a motion on item 3R?
I'm happy to make a motion, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Gaynor made a motion. Do I have a second?
No, I need the motion. They actually need the motion to approve CU 25-21.
Thank you.
Subject to conditions of approval of Exhibit 1.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Julia Gia. Please vote. Still not working? Just mine? Okay, we'll have a verbal vote, commissioners. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. The motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Herrera.
Thank you.
I do want to make a comment to the applicant that I appreciate their service for this. I know it's not easy, but it's much needed. So thank you, and look forward to being able to help more people. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to 4R, study session, upcoming 2026 code amendments. Staff, please present.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I have the pleasure of presenting to you two upcoming items that will be on the docket in the near future. Before I get into the specifics,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Madam Chair. Yeah, how come they're leaving?
it is going to be a
they get to
riveting
leave?
discussion. As I normally say, though, code amendments are usually only make planners happy. So we can understand if they want.
My apologies for the interruption.
So we have two code amendments coming in front of commission very shortly on the docket. Before I get into the specifics of what those two items are, I do want to give some context for some folks that might be watching us online, kind of the who, what, where, and why. Ironically, no, this was not coordinated in advance. So Mr. Gleason, can you hold up that lovely binder right there? The zoning ordinance. The zoning ordinance is actually a part of the city code. So it's in chapter 21 in particular. So when we talk about a code amendment, we're talking about a Peoria City Code amendment because the zoning code lives within the city code. It is also referred to as a text amendment. However, that's a little disingenuous because we're often editing graphics, tables along with text. So it's just more than a text amendment sometimes. But code amendments. So why do we do it? Top three are on the screen right now. The first one is the primary one out of those three. Maintain a contemporary set of requirements. The code started in about 1977 and has been edited here and there as it's gone along. Sometimes it's aged well, sometimes not. We do get responses if we've had changes in uses, kind of like, as Chris has mentioned, the Amazon effect. Our residential side has adjusted, our commercial and employment side has adjusted as well, so new uses come online. We also have come back to you through the last couple of years when we've had to be responsive to adopted legislative bills that have come forward. And as City Council goes forward and makes new policies, that does impact code as well. So those are the primary reasons why we do code amendments in the zoning code. All in all, they have to continue to promote health, safety, and general welfare. In terms of who, a couple things. City Council, Commission can even ask, Board of Adjustment can ask. The Board and Commissions can ask for code amendments. Normally, it's in two categories. City staff is leading. Most of the time, I'd say 90% that's true. And any member of the public can ask as well. And in particular, tonight, we do have an applicant-initiated request. We do get those from time to time. At the end of the day, code amendments are unique in that you are adjusting the code citywide. So regardless, it's not business specific, it is citywide. So that's some background information for our folks. So let's get into the first one, Barb's Dog Rescue. We are in particular going into the section 21500, specifically the land use table and the performance criteria to talk about animal shelters. So let's dive into that one for a minute. The current code classifies rescue facilities as an animal shelter in the zoning ordinance. It is conditionally allowed in the C4, general commercial, and most industrial districts. The proposed code or request is to allow these in an intermediate commercial C2 zoning district as a permitted use, subject to operational limitations and restrictions. So let's take a step back. We've talked about C2 zoning districts before. These are our most common zoning district within the city. They're located on major intersections, the arterial, for example, 75th Avenue and Bell, or arterial parkway intersections, Happy Valley and Lake Pleasant Parkway. So major intersections, a lot of traffic. The C2 allows the widest range of commercial uses. It also has a number of auto-centric, auto-dominant uses within there. So a lot of traffic, goods and services, convenience. So keeping that in mind, what are the considerations for this request? When we look at the current code, there are several animal-related businesses already allowed in C2, and we'll talk about that in a minute. These existing businesses are either permitted by right or a conditional use permit, and the vast majority have operated in the C2 without issue. They all have pretty similar operational limitations and restrictions regardless of the use. So think about it in your mind. Animal daycare, doggy district, every doggy has its day. Kennels, your favorite pet shop, think of your big box stores. Those are on primary corners. Your vet clinics are also in C2. I provided some pictures of these places that are located within the current C2 zoning district. So these operate with our furry friends and family on a day in, day out basis within the C2 category. So some things to consider. They're limited to household animals, which would be the case here. Commercial breeding is prohibited, which would be the same. The key issues that we're normally trying to address with these uses are outdoor activity in particular. Noise, odor, especially as it relates to adjacent to residential uses. We do have restrictions requiring staff on site, outside with the animals when outdoor activity is occurring. There's also pickup of waste and so forth. In these existing conditions that I'm talking about, already allowed in C2, you'll see a mix of vet inside, grooming inside, so it mixes and matches. The line kind of blurs between these uses. So we believe this request is appropriate. It would operate similar to what's existing there today. So being permitted with those limitations, we feel it would be appropriate. We do have the code available on site for review. It is simply a minor change to the table itself and modification to those performance criteria, so it's in alignment with other of those uses in the C2 district. This will be back before you on the 19th. We are looking at a March 3rd council date for consideration. So I'm going to pause right there. That's the first of two. Are there any questions I can answer for commission?
No one? No one has questions? I just have a quick question. What is the difference in terms of definition between a kennel and an animal shelter? I see them both as similar in my mind.
Madam Chair, that is beautiful and a great segue to the next code amendment, ironically.
Well, there you go.
There will be a difference. There is an operating difference. We do not currently have definitions within our code, and those definitions are being added as part of the next code amendment we'll talk about.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so it was the cute dog pictures, right, you guys? Okay. So let's talk about the next one, which is code modernization. This one is phase 2, as I like to call it. It covers a number of sections. We'll do a deeper dive in what those might be. I will reference there is a relatively large Crayola packet on the dais up there. I'm going to walk you through it. So no worries, no stressing. I'll hit the highlights. We can ask questions on this one. So a little bit of background. In 2024, we did a pretty good restructuring of the zoning ordinance in preparation for future amendments. That was actually working in tandem with adopted Arizona legislation. We called it the code cleanup, if you will. We're now into phase 2. We've been collecting a number of other miscellaneous cleanup items. We never touched the non-residential section, but they are day in and day out the bread and butter of what we normally work on for site plans and so forth. So the proposed changes. We've got some clarifying items in 2100, and I'll touch on that one. We decided to get as many definitions into one place as possible because why not? It's a good thing. And we added a few. And we also wanted to overhaul the non-residential table because frankly, it's hard to use right now and we've got a lot of duplication. We also want to align our political sign duration, how long you can have it in the right-of-way with Arizona state statutes. And then as an added bonus, we needed to clarify what we've already done through codification for our folks that do our code online. So we have some cleanup and some additional direction for them. So 700 is primarily, you guys have already seen that. All right, so let's get into the decent stuff that is exciting to planners. Sorry, no dog pictures on this one. So 21-100 is the administration section, and it does talk about some procedures. I will say with new staff coming on board and comments that we've received from public, including applicants, our existing notification table is incredibly hard to read, and it's just not useful. So what you see is what you have in the packet, which lays it out in the order of operations. We are looking to color code it. We're looking to be very straightforward and easy so that all folks can understand what is required by who, by when, etc. Probably not exciting to everybody, but it's a good thing. Secondly, we normally publish our code amendments in advance of the public meetings so everybody can look at. That's not a requirement by state statute. So this is an enhanced notification item. We are going to formally adopt our practice of putting the code changes online on the city's website in advance of the public meetings. We're doing it now. We're going to continue to do it. And then lastly, we got a little wordy, not in a good way, between what we had the language for the neighborhood meeting on a rezoning case and a conditional use permit. So we've cleaned that up and we've standardized it across those two. So that's the bulk of what's in 21-100. All right. Yes.
Just a quick question there. So what you were just showing there and what's in that is the proposed new table, not the old table.
Chair, Commissioner, that is correct. This is the new table that you see online. If you would like to go through and the strike-throughs and navigate the twister.
That's the old one here.
Yeah, that's the old one.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. So let me give you a cheat sheet before I talk about 21-200. There's a lot of colors in here. I promise I was not Crayola happy. They actually do mean something. When we're showing our codifier what we're doing, we color code, we underline, double underline, etc. So if we have moved an existing provision from one portion of the code area or another section to this section, it is shown in green. When we are deleting a provision or regulation out of that section, it is a strike through. And when we are adding or new, it's shown in blue. You'll start seeing a lot of that in 21-200. So as I noted, we're consolidating definitions from across the board. This impacts, we had definitions floating in 500, definitions in 600. We had them all over the place. So as best as we can, where it's appropriate, we've pulled those into one location. Now, with that said, not everything was standing the test of time. So we looked at codes, and while a good friend of ours and a planner likes to say P in planning is for plagiarism, I would like to say it's for practicality and for Peoriaizing it. We looked at other codes, we saw what was working. Was it better suited for the long term? We picked it, we edited it, and we made sure it was practical for our needs. So yes, we used it as a baseline, but we made sure it works for us. So you'll see a lot of blue in there. We're also grouping like terms together, and that's a good thing, because if you're looking for the definition of lot, they're all over the place. So if it's related to a lot, let's put them all together, make them easy to read. Lastly, I do need to explain these last three, new definitions and land use classification. We have a definition in there for cosmetic tattooing. And I did have to explain to folks why and what, because not all tattoos are the same. Ladies, you may know this better than the gentleman, but for the general audience, we'll give an update on this one. Cosmetic tattooing is also known as permanent makeup. It is different than what you would normally assume as a tattoo, which is permanent, not going anywhere. What you do is you have a different instrument. It only goes in a little bit into the skin. It only has a duration of approximately 1 to 3 years. These are normally, think of the scripts that you see on folks, the lines, the very thin things that look like tattoos on folks. That's more cosmetic tattooing. You'll normally get these at salons, boutiques, things like that. So it's in a different setting. So it's not a permanent tattoo where they don't go away. And because of that, from a licensing standpoint, it's also different. So we wanted to recognize, because this is a growing industry, we wanted to recognize that it's analogous to a salon, and those uses are different than the requirements for a tattoo studio. Super excited about this next one. General retail. Why? With this one definition, it takes out, and I'm not joking, about 20 land use lines out of that table for things that are about the same. So we're removing the duplication. Day in and day out, it's retail, it's retail, it's retail. We've got a good definition now. We're removing the duplication out of the table, and we're simplifying. And then lastly, we also don't need 15 definitions or land use codes associated with automotive or vehicle repair. So we're consolidating, it's simplified. So those are the big ticket items in there. Any questions on that one? All right. Enjoy the colors if you want to go through. Otherwise, we'll talk again in a couple of weeks. Here's the bigger effort, and it was a labor of love, if you will. This is restructured for easier use. Currently, when our table is online, it's hard to navigate. Our intention is to have this as a PDF link. It opens up and it's color-coded for easier use. Commercial districts are going to be color-coded one with a header. Employment districts color-coded purple with a different group. That actually matches the land use categories and that you see on the general plan and some other stuff. So there's some thoughts behind there. We're also making it easier for our consultants and folks online that use the code day in and day out. We have a column being added for use-specific standards. So if you're that use, you figure out what districts you can go into, and then you want to know what operational limitations you got to satisfy. Well, there's the note on the side. You go to that and you play connect the dots. So you're not having to guess where your restrictions are. A lot of strike-throughs that you're going to see in this table. Because we have those definitions in place now, a lot of it gets updated. So I'm going to pause right there. All right, we're looking good. Even better, use-specific standards. These aren't just for conditional use permit. These are operational restrictions and limitations, regardless if it's permitted, conditional, etc. They have been reorganized to match the layout in the table. That took some heavy lifting because everybody wanted to throw everything into personal services and retail, and not everything really needed to go into those two categories, so those got moved a lot. Some notable adjustments, and I'm going to have a slide on each of these two: car washes and service stations. So we are making some adjustments there that I do want to point out to Commission. So car washes, they can actually do more than just cars. So we're calling them automotive and vehicle washing. We are going to be requiring frontage along an arterial or limited parkway. We are proposing a 1 mile separation, similar to what we do for mini storage, between these facilities. We have heard that oversaturation is a concern. So we are proposing the same 1 mile separation compared to what we have for mini storage facilities. In the C2 zoning district, we are suggesting a maximum of 2 auto uses in commercial centers that are 25 acres or less, when one of those uses is a car wash. So let's unpack that. Most of our commercial centers at arterials are going to be less than 25 acres. When that occurs, you already have that range of automotive uses in there. We're not talking about impact to drive-throughs, banks, restaurants, etc. What we're saying is if you wish to provide a car wash in that center, then if you have a gas station, if you have an auto repair, you can only have one of those in addition to the car wash to keep that amount of intensity down in the commercial center. We're also imposing limitations of all the buildings and equipment associated with this particular use needs to be set back a minimum of 200 feet from residential, considering we have noise concerns. Sound attenuation for both the building and the equipment needs to be less than 55 decibels at the street and the interior property lines, especially when these are adjacent to residential. The 55 decibels is what you would normally expect from the city code adjacent to a residential setting. So we're asking to be good neighbors. We're also asking for the hours of operation to be limited to 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Again, good neighbor policy. So that's a lot to unpack right there from a car wash standpoint. Any questions from commission on this one?
I have a question regarding the C2 limitation. Is there a current situation or area that has more than 2 that has been problematic?
Madam Chair, Commission, let me do a deeper dive in terms of quantity. We do have a number within that 1 mile radius. Are they on 2 separate corners? I'm going to, yeah, he's blanking as well. So let us take a look at and get you exact numbers. It would feel like it in some instances, but let us confirm on that
Well,
one.
specifically, I'm reading it in C2, max 2 auto uses in commercial centers if it's less than 25 acres when there is 1 car wash there. Correct? And so it has to be a car wash like what you're picturing on this slide?
Madam Chair,
Or what if they just provide detailing services?
Madam Chair, let me clarify a little bit. So in the instance when a car wash is being considered, then the limitation would occur. If there's auto repair, auto sales, service stations, that restriction doesn't come into play. It's solely when you wish to provide that car wash, then the limitation kicks in on there.
So I'm specifically thinking of a commercial area. You all might be familiar with it on Thunderbird, just west of the 101. I think it's Thunderbird.
That in particular, very familiar with.
So, and I take my car to a place over there, and they do detailing. So it's not the big car wash that is like loud vacuums, but they do provide car washing services, detailing services. But what I find in auto repair type industry is they do congregate together, and it makes sense from a business perspective. So I guess I'm just concerned with where did we get the 2? Why are we doing the 2? Is this something we're just trying to get in front of? Are there other cities doing this? You know, I'd love to, and you don't have to, you can do a deeper dive later, but I just want to make sure that isn't something we're trying to get ahead of a problem that might not exist or might be detrimental to like someone who is looking for services for their car. Because particularly this center I'm thinking of, I think they sell wheels there, they do painting services there. Like there's all kinds of different things you could do, all separate businesses.
Madam Chair, let me, couple of points. The center that you're thinking of isn't C2. It is into an I1 condition.
Okay.
That restriction wouldn't apply.
Okay.
Secondly, on, there was one other point I was going. Let me think about this for 30 seconds.
Yeah, and I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Madam Chair, yes, Mesa currently has this condition in there. It does not have the requirement for acreage. They did it across the board regardless of acreage of the commercial center. In doing a deeper dive across the nation, very few have any sort of regulation associated with car washes. So to some extent, we are addressing concerns both heard from the public and from the, in particular, the community through the council's office, that there is oversaturation and there is concern with being good neighbor adjacent to residential. So along those lines, taking a modified MESA approach, we are suggesting through oversaturation, not only separation between the facilities, but also reserving our C2 uses for what they are supposed to be, which is goods and services. While car washes are a service, their trade area is normally 1 to 3 miles. So having that separation between facilities alone doesn't necessarily move the needle, nor does it protect our commercial centers at arterial locations for the things that people are looking for the most. And so we're trying to find that balance to address council and resident concerns while also giving them the option to allow the market to do what the market does. So it's when you want to have the car wash, that's when these kick in on a C2.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that. And I actually have no issue with the 1 mile separation between the car washes, because I'm just questioning why we would limit a C2, you know, a shopping area if there happens to be a car wash right there. So that would be something I would want to dive more into when we go back to this, but
Okay.
thank you.
Any other commissioners need questions, have questions?
Commissioner Cottrell?
Following up on that, and I'm the guy that reads all your definitions, and they are nice. So under automobile vehicle washing, you're not, I mean, I get the concern about what you're picturing there. Noisy, automated machinery makes perfect sense. But the other condition Chair brought up was the small hand wash, not automated, not noisy, one person working out of, you know, maybe a one-bay garage or something like that. Is there a similar concern? Because if I read this, that would fall under the same restriction as the other, and so it might catch some smaller folks in this net that's not really the problem. And so maybe add something into your definition there that would catch that, or, you know, include the word automated or of a certain size or something like that. Yeah. And then the second one, and this is the retail sales general, which also I love, because you went all in on toys, hobby, service. I mean, you had everything in there, which is great. My only concern is, if I'm coming from the other side and I'm reading the table and I say, all right, I want to propose this retail building and I'm selling some widget that it does not fit within any other category. I would assume that it would fall under general, but your definition of general says this classification includes these things. It does not say includes but is not limited to, or is there an option for the odd thing or anything not in this list, maybe up to staff discretion to categorize, something like that, for the weird thing that you guys haven't thought of that's going to come up in 6 months?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, that's a great comment. It does say the retail sale or rental of merchandise not specifically listed under any other use classification. So it does provide that generality. We also say tie goes to the runner when we get a request in that along those lines. This is pretty broad, and so we can provide the such as but not limited to if you wish to add that piece to it.
The idea of modernizing this means you want to keep it as modern as possible for as long as possible, and somebody's going to come up with something that's different that you haven't thought of.
What I would also like to point out, since you did read that, in homage to our director, we did include video rental in there as well, so it still lives on.
I see that in there.
records came back, so it's very possible.
Commission, if I can, let me do a little bit of probing of thoughts on this particular one. So normally when staff receives a car wash, it's primarily the big guys that you see on the screen. We don't necessarily have automated per se. However, one could argue that even some of these, the tunnel is considered automated because you're just releasing off and letting it go. So in Commission's mind, is it the really small, no vacuums attached to a service station on the corner that we're looking to preserve that opportunity? Or is there another configuration? I kind of want to walk through specifics. Is it just not the big guys and the small guys are okay?
I'll jump in since I kind of opened this Pandora's box. My only concern is limiting other auto-related services and products that may be on the same property as one of these large automated car washes. Mm-hmm. That's my concern, is for there being, because there could only be one other auto-related, essentially, per this code. So I feel that's a little limiting, and if there isn't a problem like that existing, then maybe we don't need to minimize it like that to two. Because again, they tend to congregate together, these types of uses, which I personally think is a good thing. But maybe I'm a minority, but that's how I feel about it. As far as like the hand wash detail, where I take my truck twice a year, I don't want to see them affected. And I think that shopping area that I referenced is a perfect example. I know it's not zone C2, but if it was, I wouldn't want to see those owners be hurt because there's more than two auto uses there. And I know for a fact, one of them at least does car washes. So that's my thought. Commissioner, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I'm just sitting here. I just really sitting with some of the comments that Commissioner Cottrell mentioned. It's just really, and I get your point out, Deputy Director Deaver, because you're talking about it's not just a text amendment, but there is this ambiguity to where we don't have differentiation, to where different business owners can be impacted. And so I think that this is the language. There needs to be a differentiation. Because if not, it's just blanket. And I think that's the hardest part about these text amendments is, how do we define it? And so I think I'm sitting here with my commissioners. How do we pick that apart? And I think only Commissioner Cottrell's brain really went there. Like, is there? Well, no, and you all know. I've said this humbly so. Like, I love how his brain works, but that's what we need because we're not thinking about it. And so, how do we differentiate that within the text so that we don't have business owners that we don't want to see impacted by blanket language, as to speak. Thank you.
Chair, let me suggest we do two things. To your point, let me determine how many car washes we have adjacent to one another within a 1 mile radius. Let me also do this. I will look at our commercial centers that are under 25 acres and give you an assessment how many of those automotive uses are in conjunction with a car wash. I think at the end of the day, my intuition is telling me that folks would rather have drive-through uses day in and day out to make the money that direction than necessarily congregating on the automotive side. So let us do some research, and I'll get you the numbers on that one, and we may adjust or we'll go forward accordingly.
I'd like to.
Commissioner Gaynor has a comment, if you may.
But if Commissioner Cottrell has a follow-up, I'm happy with that. Maybe he covers what I'm going to say. Go
We
ahead.
are just a friendly bunch here. Go ahead.
I was just going to comment on the less than 25 acres is, to me, that's a small size. So anything smaller than that, it's a tight site anyway. The ones I'm thinking of there at the Four Corners, Happy Valley and Lake Pleasant, those are way over 25 acres. So, I can have Mr. Shine and the 3 other automotives that they've got in there without any problem.
Yeah, thank you. So what I don't want this process to affect is similar to what our chair said is, if there's an adjacent small car wash next to a mom and pop business and they're close, they're near a major, a major chain. I don't want them to be affected. I want them to be able to be competitive and let the market decide whether or not they'll be successful. And I can tell you that most people will go to the big car wash, but some people just want to go to the little shop and they want to drive through a car wash that doesn't touch their car, because most of those are just spray car washes. And, I just don't want those small businesses to be affected.
Thank you. And just to reiterate, I don't have any issues with the 1 mile separation of the large automated. It doesn't sound like any of my commissioners do. I think it's more that. So I appreciate your willingness to dive in. And one suggestion might be, if this is generated from concerns or complaints that were directed to council or staff, maybe giving us some real world examples might help us even picture what we're trying to get to.
Okay. I do have one other question. Again, just probing commission where you're at on it. We had considered also including a 660-foot separation from the intersection requirement as well, similar to what we do for mini storage. In that regard, we pull these away from the intersection and the prominence at the corner from a C2 arterial. So that's not the first thing that you see. Rather than the limitation on number, does the pullback away from the intersection, is that more palatable from a commission standpoint in terms of addressing separation and prominence and saturation?
So with that type of separation, what are you thinking that's solving? Are you trying to keep the traffic away from the intersection, or are you trying to keep the aesthetics of all of that activity away from the intersection?
Chair, Commissioner, a little bit of both. We're diminishing the prominence of these particular uses so that greater intensity of uses can be at the corner where most people are occurring. These are narrow, the queuing capacity, the circulation gets more difficult near the intersection from a traffic conversation and access standpoint. Pulling these back away from the intersection then makes it easier for navigation from a site planning standpoint and from a city access standpoint. So that was the other consideration. We have this in place with mini storage right now, and it's been effective so far. So in that regard, would commission rather see a 660 separation from the intersection rather than the two, the limitation of uses?
Well, I feel like they're trying to accomplish two different things. So, I mean, if you're asking me if it's one or the other, I don't know how that works, but I guess I would say that having a larger setback is not so much an issue for me. But I don't see how they relate as one or the other.
I'll add through the chair. The 1 mile separation and the limitation on 2 per site is probably preferred. Okay. Coming from, a developer side of the view, if I'm sitting there, I'm looking at land and I'm trying to find a sale, and the big car wash comes to me and says, but I want the corner, and that's going to be my anchor for the site. Unless there's a practical public safety issue, the traffic doesn't work, anything like that, let them. To me, it's not an aesthetic issue. You can always put the site planning and make it look pretty enough.
Okay.
But I would prefer not to have that in there.
Okay. Since we are coming back for possible consideration, I will identify what those numbers are and provide them to commission. I will then include that in the packet going forward on the 19th as well, and the results of what those changes may or may not be on that one. So I appreciate the comments. I've got one more, if you would. Service stations. We have heard time and time again that having 3 service stations on arterial intersections is too much. So what this particular, these set of limitations do is maximum 2 on arterial and arterial parkway intersections. We also went a little step forward in max of 1 on an arterial collector intersection because collectors for access become much more challenging. This really is a auto-driven use. We do maintain the 500-foot separations between stations on the same side. Any questions, comments, concerns on this particular one? All right, I'm seeing some nodding of heads. Okay, so we hit it out of the park on this one. We got some work on the car washes. All right, I'll take that. All right, we're gonna wrap this up pretty quickly. So as I identified, we had duplicate definitions between our Desert Lands Conservation Ordinance and Hillside. We moved all of those fun little items into the definition sections. What we did keep are the landform types and character areas in there. We've renamed it. 700, again, we're aligning the political signs duration in the right-of-way to state statutes. And we are clarifying with our codifier, no, we really meant this, please do this. So that's where a lot of that blue is coming from in strike-throughs. So that concludes the deeper dive into there. You have on your table, I give kudos to Commissioner Contrell, who's already started in the homework. We will be back to you, as I mentioned, on the 19th. I will provide that information on the 2 data points along with possible changes to the code. We will publish that as quickly as possible and get that updated on the website. So we will be back in front of you on the 19th with council action on the 3rd. Any last questions or thoughts on this particular one?
No questions. Thank you. Oh, did you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and didn't really have a question, but I had a comment.
Go for
I
it.
just said, I just thought to myself, it would have been a shame if anybody other than Deputy Director Deaver would have presented this. I mean, she's meticulous, and this was good, and so this was very informative, and as we continue to go to text amendments, we can see it's not all one like blanket statement. There's a lot of things that we have to pull apart, and so I'm happy that we can go through this process, and you're explaining it even in layman's terms for someone like me so that we can, make the best decisions to recommend. So thank you. Very thorough.
Chair Commissioner, I will note that one of our new planners, Eric Cook, will be presenting Barb's Rescue. So I do hope that you go gentle on him when he does that on the 19th.
Oh, wow, she's throwing you to the sharks. There you go. We'll see you on the 18th.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'll be preparing for that meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, one comment here. Ms. David, it is difficult to write these things so that everybody with a different view reads it the same way you're intending it. So I can already see that I'm trying to pull out what you're meaning, and I can see it, but my first thought sometimes is different. So it's hard. So kudos to you for doing this.
Yes, I agree with my commissioners. Kudos to you and all city staff. This is no easy undertaking. I know it started a couple of years ago, and I look forward to celebrating when it maybe is finally done.
Chair, you may have to hold that. We have a few more that we need to clean up
I'm sure.
on there, but we will all celebrate together.
No, I
yes.
appreciate the hard work. I think we all do. Thank you. It's not easy, so thank you. No more questions, comments? Awesome. The next agenda item, and I'm sorry,
Madam Chair, back to you, yes.
okay, thank you. Okay, next agenda item is call to the public on any non-agenda items. No requests, seeing none, let's move to our next item, reports from staff. Staff?
Thank you. Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. A couple of items for you tonight. So we will have a meeting on February 19th. I know that there might have been some confusion in regards to March 5th. We are holding a meeting on March 5th. We have some big items to bring before you. And then we are evaluating whether or not we'll be canceling the March 19th meeting. So we'll certainly reach out to you with additional information once we have a finalized confirmation on that. A couple of other items I wanted to bring to your attention. The February 19th meeting, we will be seating Commissioner Sean Hutchinson. He was previously on the commission, served for quite a few years, and so it'll be good to have him back on the commission and gaining his feedback as well. Elias Valencia, who was here earlier as Don Johnson, he unfortunately is moving on to the city of Phoenix, so we certainly wish him well. And
You should be going to Miami for Don Johnson, Miami Vice.
It was great to have him here, and he was just a bright light for us to get to spend time with and work with. So it was great getting to have him here. And that's all I have.
Well, we wish him luck in the planning department over in Phoenix.
He came from there.
Oh, he did?
Didn't he originally come from there?
Well, a lot has changed. Yes. All right, well, thank you. Reports or commission updates. Do any commissioners have any updates? Commissioner Waitman Powell.
Well, I see you looking because I usually don't leave without an update, but I don't really have a verbal update. I just want to thank Mr. Valencia for his service to our city. We're going to miss him and all of his outfits. Best dressed person in the room anytime he steps in here, so we'll miss him. And so thank you for that. I do want to congratulate Madam Chair on her inaugural meeting. She just did so wonderful. She, it's not an easy seat to have, but she was so prepared. She led us through, and guess what? We're getting out probably a little faster than me, because I like to yap. But we're getting out here within like an hour and some change. And so just thank you for taking on this role and leading us throughout this year. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to congratulate you too.
Oh, well, thank you.
Heartfelt.
Okay,
Heartfelt.
thank you, everyone.
And it's a serious comment. You were amazing. You kept us on track, and this is going to be a wonderful year.
Yes, it's going to be a great year. Here's 2026. Okay, seeing no further business, none, I call this meeting adjourned.